Here's a question for you. Have you ever found yourself feeling uneasy after a black cat crossed your path? Or maybe you have avoided staying on the 13th floor of a hotel or an apartment. Or maybe you have knocked on wood after saying something positive just to make sure you don't jinx yourself. These are all superstitions, and chances are that even if you consider yourself a rational, evidence based thinker, you still engage in at least some of these behaviors. Alright, before we begin, let's just compare two cultures for a moment, shall we? In the West, spilling salt is considered unlucky unless you throw some over your left shoulder. But in parts of Asia, spilling salt is considered lucky, a sign of wealth and abundance. Both of these superstitions from these different cultures about spilling some salt can't be right, right? This shows how scattered these beliefs really are. Superstitions are made up cultural ideas, not reflections of how the world actually works. I'll admit it, I sometimes catch myself knocking on wood without even thinking about it. It's become so automatic that my hand is tapping on the table before my conscious mind has a chance to intervene. The question is why? Why do otherwise intelligent people continue to perform these irrational rituals? And more importantly, what do these behaviors cost us in terms of a mental freedom? Let's think about this. A superstition is basically a belief or habit that comes from fear of the unknown, trust in magic, or making false connections between things that happen. It's like a flaw in our thinking that gets passed down through generations because it's safer to believe it than to test if it's actually true. From an evolutionary point of view, it made perfect sense. If our ancestors believed that eating a certain wild berry would anger the gods and bring disaster, those who followed this superstition had a much better survival rate than those who kept dying from eating poisonous berries. Over time, those mental patterns became deeply ingrained in a culture, even after we had determined whether the berry was toxic or not. The issue is that in today's world, these same mental patterns are no longer beneficial. They not only serve no useful purpose, but can actually cause harm. Now, let's talk about some common superstitions and trace them back to their origins. Take Vastu Shastra as an example, which is a traditional architecture system that claims to create homes and spaces in harmony with nature. While it seems like harmless traditional home design wisdom, it raises question when people make major life decisions based on door directions or spend thousands fixing perfectly good homes. Vastu began over 5,000 years ago when people understood physics, biology, and hygiene very differently. Some practical wisdom existed in it, like positioning homes for good light and airflow, but these useful bits are now hidden behind cryptic explanations that make no sense today. So, why did it persist? Because humans are pattern recognition machines running on confirmation bias. That's a brain's tendency to notice only those things that support what we already believe while ignoring evidence that doesn't fit. Let's say you renovate your house according to Vastu principles and then something good happens in your life. You'll give credit to the renovation, right? But if something bad happens, you'll think it would have been even worse without the renovation. This makes the belief system impossible to prove wrong. No matter what happens, it seems to work. Black cats are often associated with bad luck in many cultures, even though many people have cats as pets now. In some parts of the world, people spit when they see a black cat, believing it neutralizes the bad luck. But where did this superstition come from? In medieval Europe, black cats were linked to witchcraft and the practice of dark magic. This superstition spread and changed as it traveled through different cultures. But in reality, seeing a black cat doesn't increase the chances of misfortune. However, our ancestors didn't understand statistics or coincidence. They were determined to find patterns and causes because they knew that understanding how things worked was essential for their survival. The problem I have with superstitions is that these superstitions are not just harmless cultural quirks, they're like invisible chains that limit your behavior and, by extension, your life possibilities. Think about it, how many people have passed up fantastic real estate opportunities because the house number added up to 13 or some other unlucky number? How many have delayed important travel or business decisions because of astrological predictions or inauspicious dates on the calendar? How many people have made important life decisions based on beliefs they've never questioned rather than evidence, reasons, or personal values? These superstitions divert you from your path of growth and self actualization by giving you external factors to blame for your circumstances. These superstitions are a way of surrendering your responsibility by saying, these forces outside my control determine my fate. And that, my friends, creates a mindset where people feel powerless to control their own lives. Now, it's worth noting that not all superstitions are created equal. They exist on a spectrum from the relative harmless, like knocking on wood, to the potentially life altering, like making major decisions based on astrological charts, to the actively harmful, like avoiding medical treatments in favor of rituals. The more a superstition influences your decision making, especially in important areas of your life, the more scrutiny it deserves. And this is where I think we need to be brutally honest with ourselves. Ask yourself, what beliefs do I hold that I've never critically examined? What actions do I take, just in case, without any evidence, thinking they might make a difference? It's not easy to confront these questions. There is comfort in superstition. There is comfort in believing that if you just follow certain rules, perform certain rituals, avoid certain behaviors, you will be protected from misfortune. But that comfort comes at the cost of your freedom and potentially your growth. Now, here's where things gets interesting. There is some scientific evidence that superstitious rituals can provide psychological benefits due to placebo effect. Athletes who have a pre-game rituals often perform better because the ritual reduces anxiety and increases confidence. The ritual itself is not magic, but the belief in it creates real psychological effects. This is why I'm not a fan of the all or nothing approach to superstition. Instead, I think it's more constructive to approach it with a bit more nuance and mindfulness. So, if a superstition helps you, if knocking on wood makes you feel better without limiting your choices, then keep doing it. But do it knowing that it's just a mental comfort trick, not something that actually changes external events. However, if a superstition holds you back, creates unnecessary fear, or leads you to make poor decisions, then you should challenge it. Not just by thinking about it, but by testing it. And each time you deliberately break a superstition and observe the results, you're training your mind to make decisions based on evidence rather than fear or magical thinking. You're reclaiming your psychological freedom. And let's be clear, psychological freedom is not some abstract concept. Psychological freedom is the ability to make choices based on what actually matters to you rather than fears and societal pressures that you have never questioned. Now, I want to be clear about something. When I talk about questioning superstitions, I'm not talking about questioning all traditions or cultural practices. Many traditions contain deep wisdom and social value. The problem is not the tradition itself, it's when people blindly follow it, especially when that tradition is based on false beliefs about how things work. So, what's the main takeaway of this topic here? It's simple but powerful. Question everything, especially the beliefs you've had for so long that you don't even recognize them as beliefs. Look at how these hidden assumptions affect your choices. Ask yourself what evidence or logic would change your mind about these beliefs. And if your answer is nothing could change my mind, then that's a warning sign. So, what do you think about this topic? Let me know in the comments below. And please like this video and share it with someone who you think might benefit from its message. Thank you for listening. See you in the next one.